Welcome back to the morning show. We are going to empower you now, make you healthier for it. Cancer, it seems that everybody is somehow touched by it. This segment is actually inspired by a very close friend of mine in the family who was diagnosed with leukemia 2 weeks ago. And as we sat there in the oncology ward at a hospital, I said, how can we turn something bad into something good? And that is how to prevent cancer through good food. So we want to thank Kara Rosenblum, dietitian here in the city of Toronto, for coming on this morning. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
Let's start with the good stuff first and foremost.
Sure.
No real surprises here, but let's get through it. Vegetables, but certain vegetables better than others.
Yeah, you want to look for the green vegetables and the orange vegetables. They're really high in antioxidants and they have anti-inflammatory properties.
Antioxidants basically do what?
So basically when our cells get oxidized or we have oxidative stress in our body or when we have inflammation in the body, that leads to cancer cells forming. So if we can fight that through food, it's a really good thing to do. So green leafy vegetables like kale, 45 different antioxidants have been identified in something like kale.
And we've come a long way with kale. I gotta tell you.
Fantastic.
Kale
Yeah.
chips. Have you
It's a
had kale
superfood.
chips?
Kale
Fantastic.
chips.
Yeah, and even that's healthy for you too. You hear the word chip, you get worried, but orange fruits and vegetables are great too. They contain an antioxidant called beta-carotene.
So the color orange. So
The color
carrots,
orange.
peaches, I see
Yes.
melon here,
Yeah.
and sweet potatoes.
And squash as well. They're great. You want to have one food from the orange group a day, one food from the green a day, and you're on the right track for sure.
Okay, I see beans in front of here, and this is
Yeah.
something. This is beans and legumes. Is that how you say
Yeah, beans and legumes. So kidney beans, chickpeas, lentils, that kind of thing. They contain an antioxidant called digalin, which can inhibit the precancerous or cancerous cell growth. That's really important. You don't have cancer cells growing. You're protecting yourself.
Does it matter if something's canned or not?
It does matter because canned beans contain a chemical called BPA in the lining of the can.
Aluminum.
So you want to get a can that says BPA free because BPA does have links to cancer, or simply buy the bags of beans and boil your own.
It's by bisphenol A, is that,
Yes,
or B?
right, bisphenol
Bisphenol
A.
A. Yeah,
Yep,
got
A.
it. Right.
You know your
Okay.
stuff there.
Yeah, that's
Well,
good.
it was a big story actually in the last year or so
It
because
was.
everything from baby bottles
That's where it started.
to
was
cans to
plastic,
plastic,
but
exactly.
It's definitely in can lining for beans, and they're also really high in sodium when you buy canned beans. So you want salt-free, BPA-free beans. You're good to go.
All right, we continue with the good foods.
Yeah.
Tomato sauce.
Tomato sauce. Yeah, this is interesting. Tomatoes actually contain an antioxidant called lycopene, which can help prevent prostate cancer. But interestingly, it's tomato products that are cooked, especially with oil, that have 4 times more lycopene than raw tomatoes. So you want to go for something like tomato sauce, but again, make it at home rather than buying the processed kind, which will have a lot of sodium.
Being a man, I read a lot about potential for prostate cancer, and I know that cherry tomatoes
Yes.
are something that I should be popping.
They're great,
regularly.
definitely.
Do I
But
also get the benefit
You
in
know
this?
what you can do? Cook cherry tomatoes with a little bit of olive oil, shallots, and you've got a perfect tomato sauce. Add a splash of red wine vinegar. You're good to go.
Yummy.
Perfect homemade tomato sauce without a lot of sodium.
What about tomato paste? A lot of
Tomato
people
paste
use
is
that.
fantastic.
It is
also
because
really
you're
high in
diluting it,
lycopene.
right?
Anytime the tomato is cooked or heated, perfect.
Does salsa count? I'm just curious.
Salsa, it would count for the lycopene, but it's going to have too much salt in it, most
I
likely.
just knew it.
So then, speaking of salt, because salt is not our friend.
Yes. So salt would be on the list of foods that are actually cancer causing. So sodium, as we can see here, it actually can cause stomach cancer when we have it in excess. And we know that Canadians are eating too much sodium. We only need 1,500 milligrams a day.
What does that mean?
1,500
Put it in
milligrams.
food.
So it would be cutting back on sodium. It would be about less than a teaspoon a day, but you don't really use a teaspoon on food. There's sodium in all the foods we eat. So when you read the nutrition facts panel, you actually want to look at the milligrams of sodium, and you don't want more.
Sea salt is better. Do you agree
It's
with that?
actually not better in terms of sodium content. Sea salt and table salt have the exact same amount of sodium, so it's no better for you. Some people say because it's thicker, you use a little bit less, so that might help a little bit because it has more flavor. Anything that'll get you to use less sodium is better for you. But sodium is linked to stomach cancer, so we want to cut back on that. And sodium in processed foods as well.
Let's talk about the processed foods because the first thing Perdita said when she walked over here was, "Come on,
I
come
had 2
clean."
hot dogs for breakfast yesterday with ketchup.
Unfortunately, they're not the best choice. Processed meats are linked to colorectal cancer. So things like hot dogs, bacon, and deli meats. When meat is smoked or cured or processed in some way, it causes cancer in the colon. So you want to be careful with it.
Even all beef. dogs.
Yes, and it's not the beef itself that's doing it. It's a mix of the sodium, the nitrates, and the carnitine, which comes out of cooked meat, that work together synergistically in a negative way in the body. That's where the problem lies.
Would you suggest then making our own meat and then just cutting up and making a sandwich?
The guidance from all of the cancer organizations globally is for processed meats, you want to limit them as much as possible to never if you can. That's how much they're linked with colon cancer. A better idea is to eat red meat, but again, it's the quantity you have to worry about. So the guidelines for red meat are, you should have it. It's high in iron, high in zinc, high in protein. You just want to limit it to no more than 500 grams or 14 ounces cooked per week. So this is about
Size of your
3.5
hand, right? They say
ounces.
the size of your palm. A week.
A week. So not one of those a week. That the size of your palm is 2.5 ounces.
Okay.
So you can do up to 14 ounces a week is safe. The key with red meat though is do not burn it or char it.
Why?
That causes heterocyclic amines to be created. There are 17 known heterocyclic amines that cause cancer, and they're found on charred meat. So bake or roast your meat in the oven at a lower temperature. If you do barbecue, because it's the summer and we barbecue, use a marinade on it. That helps eliminate the char from forming. It's a much healthier way to eat red meat.
I used to love my diet soda. I've given it up, more because I did the research more than anything, not because of the recent developments in my family, but you say stay away from sodas.
Yeah, sodas in general, artificial sweeteners are linked with cancer, but so is sugar. Sugar, when you consume too much of it, sugar in excess is linked with obesity, and obesity is a leading cause of developing cancer. So water is a much better choice than soda.
What about sparkling water?
Sparkling water is fantastic
club
as long
soda?
as it's the sodium-free kind, so something that has no sodium is perfect.
We're almost out of time, but I want to talk about alcohol.
Alcohol, yes. Alcohol in moderation is okay. Moderation is 1 drink a day for women, 2 drinks a day for men, and you can't add those up and have 7 on the weekend. It's really 1 a day.
Red wine is
alcohol, unfortunately, red wine is okay. They're better for heart disease. For cancer, there's no safe limit of ethanol, which is the active ingredient in alcohol. But for heart disease, a little bit's okay, and that's why they say 1 drink a day can be okay. For women, 2 drinks for men.
That's good news.
It is. And also, very important information. Kara Rosenblum, thanks very much.
My
Appreciate your
pleasure.
time.